So it finished building, and as you could see, I actually redirected like some errors here. And here's the next thing like I want like to show. So I built for several different like architectures, and if we look at one of them, let's go to like the install folder here, you will see that we have Etsy that has a configuration file. You will have it on your distros as well. If you look at it, you will see that like it gives you like the default tunables of the file systems that you want to like generate. Okay, for example, if you generate an ext4, it will say, hey, it reads journal, it supports huge file, and so on. So when you just do like a make a fast .txt4, then this is like the configuration that will be used. That's just like general knowledge. Now what we have here is that we also have like the lib directory that doesn't have much. Remember that we are building it statically. Okay, we have under user, we have share, which has the man pages and so on. We're not going to get into it. And we have under sbin, we have most of the tools that we're interested in. Okay, all right. So if we look at the errors, and it will look the same for each one of the architecture actually. We'll go and see like a warning. Let's go ahead and see just for fun for x86. And it will say like, hey, warning, using get.gr.gid in statical link application requires at runtime, blah, 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 blah. You will see it a lot, and you will see it in many projects that you want to build statically. Why? Because it wants to include glibc inside of it, but glibc relies on some functions that are dynamically linked themselves. So the thing is like this, for most cases, if you don't call a function that is warned, then you are safe. Okay, otherwise, if you use one, then you might run into some issues. So when you get this kind of warning, do not take them so lightly, but you can make a good judgment, and you can also test. Now, to make it short, I'm just going to show how to do some minimal testing, and then you go ahead and decide what you do. But the bottom line is that if you cannot build like cleanly, then maybe you want to change a libc, which if you want to keep like the size very small, it's very likely that this is what you want to do. Or you maybe want to provide the shared folder, especially if you use more than one tool. If you use more than one tool, then you have a duplication of the shared libraries anyway, so why not put them? So we're going to go ahead and see just like for like the warning. One of the warning would be, for example, tune2fs, and it's going to say, hey, using get.gin group name in statically linked application requires at runtime libraries from glibc in a specific version. So I'm going to ignore that, and I'm going to go to this directory, and I'm going to go ahead and see if my tools work. Okay, I build them statically, and of course if I go and do like sbin, let's start with creating like with testing tune2fs just for fun. Okay, so it of course requires a device, right? Let's see if we build it correctly. We did. It's statically linked. Now let's go ahead and see that it really doesn't have any dependencies. Let's do chroot to that to sbin, and we'll run tune2fs, and I'll make the screen a little bit smaller so that perhaps you can see. Okay, so it does work, but it requires some device. So let's go ahead, and in this chroot we'll do disk dump dev0 of equals sbin file image just for fun, bs equals 1 mega, count equals 100. Okay, so we have this, which is great. So we'll start with actually making like a file system out of it, and we'll do it also within the chroot. And instead of tune2fs, we're going to do make fs.txt for it. We'll use whatever default it has, and we'll use file.image. Okay, so we can see that this thing works. Okay, check out this warning. It cannot check if file system is mounted and so on and so forth, but it still continues. Okay, a lot of time when we have like output, we don't even look. So let's look at our host. What is going on with this particular image, with this particular file? And it seems like it's working, and like we're more or less happy. But now let's go ahead and try to maybe change the label of it or list its files. If we do it from the host, we will see that this is what we created right now. Okay, file system created. This is the file that we created. Everything is great, and that's like really nice. Okay, it doesn't have like a volume name, but I'll take care of it like later. If we do it on the other hand from the chroot, it will give me this warning, but it will not do anything. Okay, so I can go ahead and try seeing what's going on, like what it's even trying to do. I'm going to like trace it, and I'll see like all kind of like writings, and it will say, pay attention, this is like the QEMU user format. So you need to go ahead and understand what it is that like you're looking at. Okay, but it cannot determine whether the file is mounted. This is like the writing, everything is fine, and it pretty much stops working over there. What you will probably see somewhere here is that there is trying to do all kind of like loop device. Everything that you see here is like the QEMU one. Okay, and we can do something that will get rid of these fellows. If we do, instead of strace, if we run QEMU like the QEMU user with a dash asterisk argument, but I'm not going to do that now. What I'm going to do is understand that I'm just showing like something of the background. I want it to be short, but what I can do is understand, hey, what's bothering it? And what's bothering it is the M tab in this thing. Now the M tab is always like a reminder from ancient time, and it's always a link to proc self mounts. This is on my host, and that's the wrong one. We can see that this is it, and it's pretty much the output of the mount command. Okay, if I go ahead and cut it, it will show you more or less the same thing. Okay, so what I will do is I'll say, all right, this is what it is, let's cheat. So my chroot directory is sbin. I'm going to make over there a folder called sbin proc. I could also start doing dev so that it can try to make like loopback device, that when we do all kind of actually other activities on like a file system, it would usually want to do also tap on them and check all kind of things, especially if we want to do more complex things. But for like the simple thing, we don't need that, especially if it's not mounted. Okay, and the reason it wants to check if it's mounted is because if we're doing like activities that actually affect the file system, like changing like the inode size or doing fsck, you must not be mounted. Okay, because we're changing the file system critical parameters and things may not work for you. So we do this. I'm also going to do, let's see, and I'm going, sorry, not here, sbin etsy, and I'm going to do the link like from proc self mounts into this sbin etc mtab, okay? It will still not work because the file doesn't exist, right? But now what I can do is actually mount this, and I can use it like mount it on the host. I don't need to work like too hard on that. In general, I don't need to do any of this, right? But I'm just showing some understanding, troubleshooting, seeing like if this libc warning affected or not thing. So I can go ahead, mount the dash t prog has been, remember it's just like the chroot directory, prog. I need to be super user for that. I did it, and now if I try to do tune to fs, voila, it works, okay? I did not lie. Alright, so now I can go ahead and try and change like the volume and say the PSCG, and now I check it on the target and I'll see that the volume has been changed, and it has been changed. And if I check it on the host as well, I will also see that it has been changed, and I managed like to do that. So this is like the first one, all right? And now I can try and use like the other tools. So for example, like in the chroot, try to see what works, what doesn't work. So before that, the one of the warning that we saw, it was under like the group parameters. So I just go ahead and say like try to use this for a TuneFS, then it's setting resolve block GID to 1000, and like for example, hey, like it actually did work even though the warning was there. But if it's sec fault, I know that I should not use like this particular variable. So these are some things that if you design like your own ramdisk for some sort of maintenance activities and want to not install everything, you can go ahead and do your tests and design accordingly. Although in general you shouldn't. Just one more thing, let's fsck this. So here it says like, hey, fsck.txt4 is not found. So we need to go ahead and see where it is, okay? So let's do fsck.txt4, and it does work. And obviously look at what it says. Okay, it cannot open dev now, so we can go ahead and mount our dev, or even like create just this dev file with the relevant minor. Major is 1, minor I think it's 5, but I'm not sure. It's 3, okay, close enough. Prime number. And the reason why the first fsck just doesn't work is basically because if we look at that spin, well, fsck calls all kind of helpers according to the type, okay? So essentially this is how this kind of thing works, and you can see that like the type is just like the argument that you give it. Check it out, like it has 4 like when we created it, it has like 4 links to it, okay? So just for your information, this is how it works. Now that we got it figured out, if you see that your static binaries work, then you can more or less be happy and relaxed about it, okay? Because you just go ahead, put the thing that like interests you on the RAM disk, and then you go ahead and move on with it. So this is how it works. We could go, if we do like the xt4, it understands, hey, I still cannot open it. So you need to have like the particular fsck for your particular like file system, but actually if it's like ext2, you don't have to. So you go ahead, and this is how you do things. Another thing you could many times want to include, if you want to take care of like resizing your partitions, is after like you're doing like your fdisk or gpart shenanigans, you want to use resize to fs. So I try to keep it as short and as informative as I could, and this is why it's not like complete and super rigorous or so on. And what we saw is all of this. As I mentioned in the beginning, we cross-build e2fsprogs. We discussed some problems with autotools, like when configuring, when stripping, and we discussed some problems with autotools and libtool when you have dependency into glibc. And we did a cross-chroot to test some of the things before we test on the target. This is useful. And since I mentioned several times that this is not complete, you need to test, you need to check, then it is a very good reason to not do that yourself. But understanding how at least some things work doesn't hurt. So that's it, and thanks.